was a bright, moonlit New Year's Eve. I looked down at my phone and, wiping the snow from the face of it, checked the weather report one more time. The glow illuminating my face told me the same thing it had been saying for the last 20 times I had checked it that day. Snow. More like a blizzard. The little snow icon on the weather website was surrounded by a red warning. In bold letters it said, "Winter storm warning." As I watched white flakes starting to fall harder, I looked through the window on the other side of the now white deck and saw my 9-month pregnant wife's silhouette through the blinds. Today was her due date.
A child arrived just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away.
A few months earlier, we had moved to a beautiful mountaintop cabin surrounded by large, mossy, old-growth Douglas fir trees. The cabin was nestled in a small forested patch at the very peak of the tallest mountain around for 100 miles. The view from the front desk was a stunning 360-degree view for which the world seemed to drop off and disappear on all sides into large brown valleys. A homesteader's dream. Now, as I watch a snowflake land on the tip of my nose, I try and picture my yellow FJ Cruiser zigzagging down our steep and narrow driveway, and wonder what it might look like in 10 feet of snow. As I reach for the door to go inside to bed, my hand shakes slightly with apprehension. And as the world fades into the blackness of sleep, I picture the narrow, twisting highway for which it will take us 2 hours to reach town, and I start to worry.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
I woke to the sound of what I thought might have been a maid emptying a large washtub onto a wooden floor. My wife's water had broke, and I sprung into action like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, springing around the room, turning on lights, grabbing white towels and blankets, dressing myself with my tie-dye shirt all backwards, and just as I'm bouncing towards the next task, I look down at my glowing wife. She's calmly sitting on the edge of our bed, looking at me with a warm smile. She picks up her pink iPhone to call the midwives and asks what we should do next. I watch as her long brown hair bobs up and down in time with her nodding head as she says she understands and that we'll see them in the morning. She can see the confusion written all over my face and explains the midwife said not to rush to town and wait for first light of the morning. Morning came, and as I walked to the window of our bedroom and look outside, I noticed that the snow level had come up well past the bumper of my lifted SUV, and there was barely any yellow paint visible due to the piles of fresh white powdery snow clinging to the side of my car, like a polar bear going for a ride on its mom's back. I bundled up with so many layers of clothes you might have thought I was the pregnant one,
I can't put my arms
and helped my wife through the thigh-high snow to my steaming car, which I had been warming up and scraping snow and ice for so long that my beard had completely crystallized into a Yosemite Falls of ice, snow, and air. I looked at my buried tires and was grateful for the time I had taken the night before, headlights shining through the visible cloud of my every breath, to attach the rusty, chunky tire chains that were going to keep us from slipping off our driveway, which had completely disappeared. It was first light of morning, and the sky was ablaze with the orange and yellow hues of sunrise, and the snow was reflecting the colors back as if it were a kind of never-ending lake of sky. As we started down our driveway, I had to constantly guess where the road was, and my car weaved back and forth with the guessing game. At one point, I bobbed when I should have weaved, and our car started to slide down the hill where the road was supposed to be. The world slowed to a crawl as I saw myself trying to steer us out of the slide. The car continued its relentless descent, bouncing off of hidden lumps under the snow and pinballing between small saplings bent over at the top with piles of accumulating snow. Are you alright? I reached over and touched my wife's shoulder when we had finally come to a stop, and asked her if she was all right. Our car had slid a long way down the steep white mountainside and came to rest next to a towering wave of a snowbank. Snow was falling like powdered sugar from a sifter, and I pictured myself trudging through waist-deep snow to go find help. I shook my head from side to side, lips muttering something about how I couldn't believe we hadn't flipped the car, when I recognized a large gray oak tree that had split in half many years before. I looked up at the path our parallel tracks had left as we slid down the hill, and realized that we had ended up on our driveway, just lower down. We had skipped the giant J-shaped switchback altogether, and were now pointed in the direction of town. I put the car in gear with a swoop of my arm, and my mouth dropped open when our car started to lurch forward, slowly at first, and then with every bump freed itself from the snow like a dog shaking its wet fur. Slowly navigating every twist in the road and methodically plodding up and down every hill and pass, as the highway stretched through the blank landscape, we saw a sign that said Fieldbrook and took a right into the relative safety of the redwood trees and their umbrella-like green canopy.
Younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze, country roads, take me home to the place.
I turned and smiled at my wife as we rounded the last corner before seeing the round, green yurt we had rented for the berth. In the doorway, arms stretched high with a gregarious wave, was our midwife, who had been pacing back and forth with the anticipation of our arrival. 12 hours later, I'm holding my tiny baby boy with tears streaming down my face, smiling wide with appreciation and eyes glowing with the knowledge that our journey could have ended up quite differently. I looked out the window and thought of a New Year's resolution: to buy a snowplow. Denali, my blond, happy-go-lucky son, is now almost 2 years old. Every morning I wake to his precious ear-to-ear smile and often think back to that white snow, my red, cold hands, and that little blue baby that now makes me beam with love. He's almost head-high to my waist, growing fast and growing tall, just like the majestic mountain he was named after, Denali, the Great One.
Get your motor running, head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah. Oh man, take a look at my